Hello everyone. Thanks for joining us first thing on a day after bank holiday for those of you joining from the UK. Apologies for that. We won't do it again. We'll make sure there's a gap between a weekend and the Tuesday we run these events. So today's about the evolution of member communications in 25. So we'll be looking at various aspects that techniques, technologies, and so on. And there's a whole range of us speaking. So as we go along, everyone will introduce themselves, but my name's Steve Sidey. I'm Head of Sales and Marketing here at Smart Impact. A few rules about the way we run these events. We will be recording this, so therefore no need to take extensive notes, and we'll submit the recording and submit the slides later on the week. We'll send an email out, and you'll also be able to log in via our website and get those down. We've also got quite a lot of collateral that you can download as well, so we'll drop some links into the chat as we go through. But any questions you've got or information you're seeking, please again put those in the chat and we'll answer them as we go along. And right at the end, we'll have some Q&A. So there's plenty of time for you to get your specific questions logged with us and then answered by us as well. And any we can't answer in the session, we'll follow up with. So with that, the agenda, what we're going to do is take a very brief look at where membership comms has evolved over the last 15 years or so, but really what also in part two, what opportunities the new technology gives us, various technologies that we use, plus obviously emerging AI, which we'll then take a look at in the solution demos part. And then we've got Q&A. So I've got the easiest job. Mine's over now. And with that, I'll hand over to Alan Reed.
Great. Thank you so much, Steve. Good morning, everybody. Alan Reed, an independent consultant to the membership world. I've been working with membership organizations, it feels like since the dawn of time, and certainly going back into the 90s. And one of the most exciting things that have changed in all of those years is how membership organizations communicate with their members. So if we get going into talking about how that looks, so a really brief word about the fundamentals of communication, because fundamentally everything has changed. So if we look at the communications, we have the sender, we have the receiver. Okay, those two things haven't changed. We've got the association, we've got the member, prospective members, other stakeholders, but everything in the middle has changed in those years. Expectations are much higher, comms are much more sophisticated. So the message itself, first of all, it used to be very much generic. Everyone got the same stuff. Everyone would be lucky to get something, once a quarter, or, very infrequently. It might be a newsletter or the magazine. The medium, of course, we know. I've been doing this long enough to remember when the organization I worked with was a member of the CBI. So they gave business updates as part of their member value. And they literally used to do it by fax. So every time anyone walked past reception, there was always a fax coming in from the CBI that nobody read, that just got, chucked in the bin. And it seemed like all of their members all got the same stuff with a very minimum of categorization going on. So the associations had a real difficulty getting things through to the individual. Those faxes, as you can imagine, they fondly thought it would go to the right person's desk who would read it avidly. And of course, the receptionists just chucked it in the bin and cursed the CBI because they could never use the fax when they wanted to. And then the perceived value. The real challenge that associations have now that we find is that people are used to much more sophisticated comms. People can get things for free in a way that they never used to be able to. So associations, as we all know, have had to raise their game hugely to prove the value. And one of the most important things, if not the most important thing for most members, is the value of those communications coming out of their association. If they're not getting it from you, they'll vote with their renewal fee, and they'll go and get it from someone else. So what does that mean on the ground? So what it means for associations essentially is that membership comms have evolved significantly. So it's gone from the very, very slow, the very infrequent, the generic, through channels that really weren't working. Faxes, as I say, the start of emails, but in the old days, the most individualization was to change Dear Sarah to Dear Bob, and everything else was pretty much the same. And then, of course, the biggest problem of all was no data. Uh, uh, One of the interesting things that's happened over the last 10 years is that communications are two-way, even if the member is not responding. So in the old days, you had no idea who was reading anything that you sent out because, fax doesn't tell you back the other way. Emails didn't tell you back the other way. Now we're able to see who's reading what to a very great degree of detail. We can see where they're not reading because silence too is a message, and we can then turn that into analytics. So what that means is that in the now, of course, all of our comms are light speed. Everyone expects to be told everything instantly. I work with some membership organizations that have a goal that if something happens in Parliament or if something happens in their industry, that they will have a survey out to their membership body, personalized, relevant, targeted to the right segments of their membership within 2 hours. That's their organizational goal if things happen in working hours. And they achieve that because with modern tools, you can quickly segment your data. You can create a survey because you're doing it all the time anyway, email a link to the survey, bish bash bosh. So those kind of things were like Star Trek going back 20 years ago. Now it's perfectly achievable, perfectly routine with the right technology. So always on, people are expecting. Some membership associations are updating their newsletters and their comms all of the way through. Their website is being updated all of the time, certainly during working hours. And now this is one of the biggest changes of all, hyper-personalized. The Dear Bob, Dear Sarah transition is not enough. People expect that their association knows where they are in their career, knows where they are in their industry sector, knows what their aspirations and goals are, and has to prove that to them with the comms. And as I say, if the association isn't proving that to them with the comms, then members feel it very quickly and respond very quickly as well. There are brand new channels now, and that we're going to talk about and show in a minute. So as well as, of course, the evolution of email into personalized and relevant, there's also personalized website experiences that members expect. So the website landing page, once you've identified yourself, should look very, very different from someone who's been a member for years, who's involved in all sorts of things, who provides content for their association, from someone who arrived into the membership world for this association 10 minutes ago. It should be hyper personalized. It should be relevant to that person. Messaging and all of the things that they can and cannot do should be driven by the knowledge of that person. And then, of course, we have limitless analytics. So all of this is facilitated by social media, two-way communications, and of course AI and automation, meaning that associations can do these kind of things now with the right technology without having to grow their staffing count to enormous levels, or to flog themselves senseless trying to pretend that they've got the tools. The tools are there now on an affordable, accessible basis in a way that they haven't been before. It's a really very exciting time in the association world. So why this evolution is important, why it's not just about the technology. I think in 2025, certainly for the last kind of 2 years, and coming into fullness now in 2025, associations are able to fully serve all of their audiences in a way that they haven't been able to before. Pretty much every association I've worked with over the years has had groups of members within their database they just haven't had time to be able to service. It's too small, too niche, whatever it is. We don't have enough time to create content for them. We don't have enough time to create events for them. Well, now they do, because the tools are doing more of the legwork, allowing human beings to do more of what only human beings can do. And of course, if you do have that extra capacity, you do have that extra resource to use your ideas and to enact those ideas and turn them into actions on the ground, then that enables associations to find new audiences, to do more, for instance, to bring young people into membership, to do more to bring returning members back into membership. All of that needs ideas, it all needs creativity, but it also needs the tools to get those things out the door. And for the first time, I'm seeing that all of these ideas that people have are actually realizable easily and affordably with the tech that is available. So what I'd like to do is just have a quick poll, if I may. So what I'd like you to do, if you would imagine, imagine you had the great tools. Imagine you had the great analytics and the tools available to you. What would your colleagues, what would you as an association focus on now if you had the capacity and the extra resource and the extra time? Imagine you're in this idealized position. What is it you don't have time to do now that you would do more of? So if we could just put those answers up and give people a little bit of time to respond to those. And then, Chris, if you could just let us know when you're going to close the voting and put the results up, please, as well.
Sure. Let's just give it a couple more seconds. I think all right. I think we've got a good response. I'm going to wrap up in a second, and we are done.
Great. So could you just quickly mention what are the top couple of things that people would spend the time on if they had more capacity and resource?
So by quite a margin is insights. So we'd like to learn more about what our members want. And then coming up in a actually fairly close second is communication strategy.
Fantastic. Thank you so much. So that's one of the biggest revolutions that we've seen, and that it actually chimes with this audience really well. So actually having insights of what people are consuming and what they're not interested in is one of the most important things for driving your own content and being ever more valuable. And then using that in a positive loop with your communication strategy. Fantastic. Thanks so much, everybody. And with that, I'd like to hand over to Jeremy, if I may.
Alan, thank you, and thanks Chris as well, and good morning everyone. My name is Jeremy Jaley. I'm Business Development Lead here at Smart Impact. I'm coming to you this morning from a slightly chillier Sussex than it's been over the last few days, but we had a lovely bank holiday, so I hope you did too. Following on from the introduction that Alan has given us, I'd like now to shift our focus to the opportunities ahead in member communications that we see at Smart Impact. And I'm doing this as a bit of a preamble for my colleagues Adam and Chris, who are actually going to show some of this in action with a bit of live demo. I want to start with the context because I think everyone on this webinar is probably aware that we're living through a period of rapid change driven by the opportunities presented to us by new AI and AI-infused tools. So obviously I'm talking about some fairly fundamental things like generative AI and large language models, but also the new agentic automation tools that are being developed by many software businesses, especially big technology firms such as Microsoft. And these leverage these generative capabilities. They sort of blend them into more traditional sort of CRM and communication processes. And they'll be an important part of the mix moving forward. And this evolution is opening up entirely new ways for membership organizations to reach audiences in ways that they've not been able to before. So we want to explore what that looks like now. What are the most important channels for communicating with members in 2025? Some of that's not going to be massively surprising stuff, I precursor, but also how do we extend our audience reach now and in the future so that we can take advantage of emerging technologies. So if our goal is to use new channels and find new audiences, how do we do that in practice? Well, generally speaking, in 2025, we're communicating more frequently and through more diverse channels than ever before. And many people spend significant amounts of time living more and more digital lives on social platforms. So you'll see some familiar logos on this slide. You've got Instagram, TikTok, Threads, even platforms like Discord and Reddit. These are the places where more digitally savvy members, especially younger people or digital natives, already spend a lot of their time. So it makes an enormous amount of sense for membership organisations that are looking to engage with those younger members to think about how they are utilising and exploiting those platforms to get their message out there, how to reach new members in new ways, and then critically how to get them to collaborate and engage through those platforms, because that's what social media tools are really designed to do. And of course, generative tools such as chatbots enable organisations to respond to members in new and innovative ways, and to provide a sense of always on 24/7 help, support and guidance. And again, I think this is really important because people are much more used in the digital world of 2025 to engaging with organisations on their terms, which of course means when it's convenient to them to do it. Sofa surfing, etc., quite often where people are doing this kind of thing. But obviously it's not just about new digital tools. Most professional membership organisations are still really good at engaging with their stakeholders in traditional ways. And indeed, some members may only ever want to engage with you like that. So we're also seeing a continued focus on more traditional channels that foster deep, high quality connections. So conferences, expos, live events, webinars, meetups, even things like committees and group meetings. And one subsidiary benefit of using AI tools to support these and make your communications activities around sort of in-person events is that it should be freeing up your staff's time so that they can diversify into new platforms whilst ensuring that you can still deliver those quality orientated activities as well as you already have. So I think the point is, yes, there are new channels. Yes, you need to think about using them, but don't forget what you already do really well as you're making that evolution. I wanted to just take a quick look at the top 5 digital channels that successful membership organisations are using in 2025. And I use this as an opportunity to talk about how you can really create relevance and value to stakeholders when you use them. So, unsurprisingly, email remains the bedrock of a significant amount of member communication activity. But as Alan described, its use has significantly evolved. We're not talking anymore about mass pray and spray emails. You need to use modern tools, marketing automation platforms like Dynamics 365 Customer Insights, for instance, to segment your audience, tailor content to individuals' specific interests, and automate the communication journeys that you send people on. So that's from onboarding process through to renewals. An email is cost effective, measurable and powerful, but you need to make it relevant and interesting for your audiences for it to be as effective as it can be, and to avoid the risk of people unsubscribing and you not being able to reach them moving forward. So the second is member portals and apps. And I think unsurprisingly, members expect self-service and personalization in 2025. And don't forget that digital expectations on this front are exponentially higher than they've ever been and continue to evolve at a rapid pace. And that's just because of the world we live in and the exposure to digital services that we have every single day. And a well-designed portal or a mobile app can let members access their membership information, event bookings, CPD, but perhaps most importantly, signposted and curated content all in one place. And when you build that on a modern CMS platform, we use Umbraco, then your portals can really empower members with 24/7 access to information and reduce administrative burdens for your team and put the power of engagement in members' hands. So social media, and as we've said, social media platforms aren't just for marketing. They're really great at helping professional membership organizations to build engaged communities. So obviously platforms like LinkedIn, X, but even things like private Facebook groups or perhaps using a Discord server can give your members a space to connect, share ideas, and stay up to date. And platforms like this really should be used to help foster a sense of belonging, particularly between those sort of traditional in-person meetups and activities. Probably unsurprising considering the medium we're using this morning, webinars are a great way to deliver content. So be that things like CPD or running Q&As or providing policy updates. And if they're recorded and available on demand, then your content becomes even more valuable because you can use it several times. So this approach is flexible, it's scalable, and it's a great way to position you as a thought leader and to give people continuous access to your ideas and content. And then finally, I think an important one, but still one that for me seems to be emerging in a lot of membership organizations, is SMS and push notifications. Because when you need to cut through noise, nothing really beats SMS or push notifications because they're ideal for quick reminders. So getting people information about start times or important deadlines for renewals or CPD, or for providing urgent updates. They're short, they're direct, and they get read almost instantly by your members. So I would expect that most professional membership organizations are at least planning to incorporate all of these channels into their communication activities. But it is amazing how often we find that technology is holding folks back, either because the platforms that they're using don't have capabilities to support these, or because they're using multiple different systems and therefore have too many silos of data in different places to bring those communication plans together successfully. Obviously, this is an area where we at Smart Impact believe that a modern membership management platform can be a game changer, and we build all of our apps on top of Microsoft Dynamics 365, which is a hyper-modern CRM platform designed to enable all of these activities. But another key advantage of most modern communication platforms, particularly digital, is that these tools and approaches allow you to invest more in gathering feedback or undertaking social listening, which means when running your communications activities, you're creating a large amount of data about how people are interacting with you, their sentiments for doing that, their behaviors. And by listening and acting on those insights, you can improve the quality of your activities even further based on quantifiable evidence. So having access to that data then enables you to focus your attentions on key communication enablers that can have an exponential impact on the quality of communications activity. And this is obviously an area where AI can start coming to the fore to enable even more of this. So the first is personalization across segments. Modern digital tools let you tailor content at scale, enabling you to be much more selective when building audiences and member segments, and then making it much easier, quicker to personalize communication campaigns and content effectively and efficiently. And this can be a game changer because by sending members the right information at the right time, you can make communication campaigns much more relevant, inspiring follow-up or engagement with what you are sending. And as we've described, by using data analysis tools, we can also continually mine the data to uncover hidden trends and insights to improve what we're doing. And again, this is an area where AI, which is in many senses much better and faster at identifying trends in large volumes of data, can really come into its own. And there are several analytic services available that enable you to get better information from data, including things like machine learning that can spot patterns in large data sets, often quite unstructured data sets, that would be extremely difficult for human analysts to uncover anything meaningful from quickly. And ultimately, this enables us to raise the game in-house, because all of these AI tools and systems allow your internal teams to create more relevant digital content much more quickly and free up their time to focus on value add engagement and activities with members. But I think you're probably thinking, simply generating more content is not necessarily ensuring that that content is relevant and ready for consumption by our teams. So how exactly in practice can we enable quality improvements at the same time? Well, for many organizations, that's done by applying AI tools to the traditional fundamentals of communication that Alan described earlier on. And to enabling this, you need to put in place a framework for using AI that supports concrete content creation, curation, and distribution that is specific and tailored to your organization. So what we're seeing is that organizations having success with their AI adoption are moving away from just using generic platforms like ChatGPT to a situation where they are building organization specific agents and assistants that have been tailored to their organization, their sector, the types of members they work with, and their organizational values. And they're doing that by training AI tools on context before they're using them to undertake tasks. So in technical terms, this is called content augmented generation, or CAG, and most modern AI platforms support this. So what you can do is provide collateral and data to your AI platforms that help it understand the context that it's operating in. And then when it's asked to work on tasks, this greatly improves the quality and the relevancy of the outputs that it generates. And what a lot of organizations are finding is that the more they train these models, i.e. the more data and information that they provide to them, the better they're able to refine or fine tune how the AI responds. So you have a much more intelligent AI to support what you're doing. And if we then go back to Alan's fundamentals of communication paradigm, you can probably see that a tailored AI can help at virtually every stage of the communications process. So as the sender, you can do things like rapidly personalizing and tailoring content you prepare and send out so that it's relevant to the different segments in your audience. And to support this, you can generate content that's tailored for different mediums and channels much more quickly and efficiently. I want to give you an example of this. There are several AI webinar platforms emerging that not only enable you to run your webinars and record sort of live events, etc., but that automatically suggest and create new content from your webinar transcripts and recordings. So basically, you record your webinar, and then the AI tool can summarize your recorded content into written articles, blog posts, and even short videos that provides a whole new set of content for you to communicate after an event. That speeds you up by making that information available and by priming the AI on what would be useful to members and audiences before that content is generated. You can then focus the tools on creating relevant subsidiary focus that you can incorporate into your communications activity. And then finally, by tailoring your communications to ensure they're relevant and using new channels to reach new members where they're consuming content, you can ensure that you're delivering value and learning from your members or the receivers as they consume. And obviously that creates a virtuous circle, because the consumption of your content and the data it creates will then help you to learn more about your members and how to tailor information for them in future campaigns. And as I'm sure we've stressed enough, the infusion of those AI tools with traditional communications practice and approaches is where this type of activity can be transformational. And we talk at Smart Impact about practical AI. If you're going to be using these tools, you need to make them practical and relevant to what you are doing as an organization, because that helps organizations to improve, harness relevance and value in their communications activity. So before we move over to Chris and Adam for a bit of a demo, let's run our final poll. Chris, you're one step ahead of me already, which is great. So I want to ask what stage folks are at in developing their own GPT technology. So I suppose what we have on the screen is a range from, yes, this is something that we are proactively looking at now, all the way to, actually, this is completely new to me, not something we're considering. It'd be really interesting to sort of hear where people are on that journey. I'm going to go like this. Do we want to give that a moment? Chris? I think we had 40 responses first time, don't we?
Yeah.
So that's coming through. Yeah, I think it's, I suppose I'm as the results are coming in, I can see them on screen. I'm a little surprised that it's neck and neck between the bottom two, because you know, in this day and age, organizations need to start getting to grips with these AI tools and their potential. But I'm not surprised to see that it's probably only at the moment conversational, not on roadmap yet. We exhibited last week at the MEMCOM conference in London, which is a great event. If you're not involved with MEMCOM, I'd highly recommend it. And there was a lot of talk throughout the day about using and adopting AI tools. And I think it became clear, Steve, you led a session, that people are just at the beginning of that journey. But the fact that it's on people's radars, obviously very important. And if you think that we can help you to accelerate those discussions, please don't hesitate to reach out. But without further ado, Chris, I'm going to come, I think, in your direction for what does this look like?
Oh, thanks a lot, Jeremy. Let me screen up for you. Oh, hopefully you can see my screen with some nice bright colors on it. So,
Absolutely.
Brilliant. So just excuse my voice. I've been ill for the whole long weekend, which is great, and I'm only today feeling better, just in time. So I'm going to just take you through a couple of concepts in terms of execution of communication. So we're going to have a little look at the data. So we can't really do much. We can't do that tailored communication that we're looking to do if we don't have the data in place to actually be able to focus on people. Then we're going to look at how we can use some AI tools to have a look at the information we have and possibly come up with some content for that. And then we're going to look at the actual execution of those campaigns. So how do we do more communication effectively and in an automated process? So that will take us from the data to the execution, but it's not going to focus very heavily on the content. And for that aspect, I'm going to hand over to Adam at that point, who will take you through some of our AI tools that can help you with the actual legwork of creating communication and content. So at the moment, we are in our CRM and we're having a look at all of our, or some of our different contact records that we have, which are for different members. And the very first thing we want to be able to do is understand the membership status of different individuals, right? So if somebody has cancelled or if they're still pending payment, we're going to want to send them different kinds of communication as opposed to someone who's an active and current member. If I go into Abigail's record, which will be the one I use quite frequently as we go through today's demo, we can see that there's various pieces of information that jumps out at us. So the first thing is we have our engagement score. So this is going to take various touch points this person does, like have they been logging into our website? Have they been doing CPD courses? Have they been downloading our content and getting an aggregate score around that? But we can also see things again like when did this person join and when do they expire? Because we want to tailor our communication around that. If somebody's approaching a renewal and expiration, we may want to change the content of even our more generic emails. We may want to include banners and things that are going to highlight the fact that there's a renewal that's upcoming. We want to be able to know what type of membership grade they are. So are they a student member? Are they a concessionary, etc. And then as we go along the top, I won't go into all of the different tabs, but we want to pull out things like our finance history of this individual. So we want to know if there's any outstanding amounts that are associated with them. We want to know from the event side of things, have they been attending our events, and what type of CPD points they've been earning as a result of those. So from here, we can have a look at over time, when have they been attending those events? If we go over to our CPD Again, we can see what our CPD target was for this period, and whether there's outstanding CPDs. And we can use all of this kind of information to tailor the types of communication we send to them. So we don't want to, or somebody hasn't been doing a lot of points, or maybe it's midway through the period and they still have 0 points earned, we may want to send them more urgent communication as opposed to somebody who is compliant and up to date in terms of their CPD earnings around that. And the way we do this is we take the type of data that's being recorded, and we use this in a segment builder within, well, one of the ways we can use this is through customer insights and the segment builder, which is really where we start to build out the audience. So here we can see that we've just done a quick query as to, are they an ordinary member and when did they join? So did they join today? That way we can automatically update this audience to send them welcome communications whenever a new individual has joined. We can also very easily type in things like CPD and find on the contact record how many CPD they've earned in this particular period, and let's say if it's equal to 0 as an example, or maybe if it's less than 10, we want to start sending them more urgent communication. And so from a very clicks not code approach, we can start to build up very comprehensive, very complex queries to find information around that contact. And we can start to publish these things to our portal, so we can start to use the personas and the audiences that we build within our CRM system to tailor the type of content that someone is going to receive once they are on our website. We can then start to use AI tools to work with this data as well. And I'm not going to go too deep onto the AI side of things because I'll leave that for Adam. But in terms of Copilot Studio, which is an ability to build ChatGPT-like tools, we have the ability to build out different agents that can do things and interact with our data. So we can see what it's going to edit. It's a little bit easier to read. Essentially, I have an assistant that can create an annual membership statement for me, able to go into our contact record within CRM, look up all the relevant information, and then create a summary for of this person. And we can describe how we want this to look, although I've just said in a chat message. But then very importantly, we can start to plug that into our Dataverse or Dynamics information. So look at the contact record, look at the event registration, and then create that summary. We can even take that the outputs of that summary and then send out emails around that or update contact records. And if I move over to Copilot, which is well, actually to Office 365, we can then publish these agents into our Office 365. Like you say, things like create a statement for Abigail Blackton, and let me just hit that one. So that's going to go off and look up the membership data of that particular contact. And if I just go back to the agent just while that's doing its thing, you know, we could see that I just asked it to say, can I get an annual summary, generate a statement? So I'm not even tailoring and really defining the kinds of words that the AI needs to look for. I just asked it create a statement. And from here, you can see that it's dug into Abigail's record. It's been able to pull out all the data or the CPD points that they've earned, the most recent webinars, etc. From here, we can then edit that. We can push it into Word. So maybe we don't want to include the most recent summaries, and we want to just give a little bit of emphasis on the thank you aspect. We can very easily build out these tailored responses and then send them out en masse in an automated method. So as somebody starts to approach maybe 2 weeks away from their expiration or their renewal date, we can run an automated process to build this. So rather than me having to go to the contact record and try and understand everything that's happened with that person, we can see this come up with a very nice, very elegant summary for us. Then if we move over to our actual content execution, I'm not going to go again too heavily into the content. I'll leave that for Adam to touch on. But in terms of customer insights, which is the marketing module within Dynamics, you can see that we have multiple different channels that we can start to execute on. So email, as Jeremy says, still probably the most popular and heavy lifting, but we can start to do things like push notifications as well. So if we want to engage people for, I'm just going to keep on the CPD theme for now, we can then say, we can generate our push notifications, we can use personalization, so hi, first name, etc. And then, you know, on click of that push notification, do we want to go open up the app? Do we want to direct them at person specific learning modules, and likewise we can do the same with text as well, so we can start to bring in our personalization and be able to do that kind of communication. But it's all very well that we can have the data, we can have the content, we still need to be able to send all of these out, and we don't want to sit there building manual email or text campaigns. So we have the ability to use automated journeys for this process. I'm just going to skip through. I'm going to create this one very, very quickly. I won't, in our next webinar, we'll be going into a little bit more detail about this. But for now, let's just create a journey, which is going to be our automation process. So from here, we could see that we have a segment very similar to one of the segments that I built over here. And as we go through this process, we want to be able to automate some of the campaigns. We want to be able to switch between channels of communication depending on how people are interacting. So let's say we want to invite somebody to do some CPD. So we have our audience and we have an email. Let's go, and I'm just going to select a random one. Let's go email one. And from there, we want to then wait and see if somebody opens that email. So if they open the email, then we know that they are interacting with our communication. But if they're not opening those emails, then we may want to switch to a different optimization. So let's go on the yes. We're going to send them an email. But now, if they haven't opened that email after a certain amount of time, we're going to switch to optimization, which means that we're going to use AI. We can either hard code it, so we can say, well, now switch to text messages, or we can start to optimize for different types of channels. So we can set the goal, what is it that we're looking for, opens, click-throughs, etc. And then we can use the AI within the module to start to choose which of those delivery channels we should do. There was quite a whistle-stop tour through those processes of data to light content to the execution of that. I'm going to hand over to Adam to take you through some of the various AI tools that can assist with the actual heavy lifting of content creation. Over to you, Adam.
Almost forgot to unmute there. Hi, can you all hear me?
Yes, I can.
Cool, hopefully you can see my screen as well, where I'm on ChatGPT Teams using some of my smart AI tools. So I'm currently the head of AI modern work at Smart Impact, but before that, I was the general manager of the Fire Industry Association. And in one of my roles there, I was working in marketing, creating content. And so I know how important it is to get out timely, personalized, and relevant content. And I also know that without AI, that can be time-consuming and harder than it now needs to be. So I'm quickly going to go through a whistle-stop tour of some of the tools at disposal for smart AI and try and explain them a bit to see how membership organizations like yourself can benefit from them. So first things first, you can see here that on the left-hand side of my custom AI workspace, which is data secure, I've got all of the different assistants. Problem is with having so many assistants is it can sometimes be hard to know which ones to use, especially for those in your team or maybe yourself that aren't that AI confident or competent right now. So we built one which is behind our whole philosophy of what we're trying to do with AI, which is making it easy for all. And so we've got one called the Smart AI Selector. Just a quick note, as I'm going through the demo, be sure to look at the top left here to see the different names of the assistant if I forget to mention it. So as you can see, we just press the quick start button to begin, and the assistant, like many of the ones we've made, will explain what they do and what they need. And that means that no matter who's sat in front of the screen reading it, whether it's an AI champion or someone that's using it for the first time, they'll be able to better understand what they've got to do. So this assistant is going to help me choose which other assistants I will need to use in order to do my work. So I just said to it, in very simple terms, I want to think of content ideas, write content for articles, create social media posts, and then maybe generate some images. The AI comes back and say, what files do you have and what do you want the final outputs to be? To which I simply say, nothing right now, and news articles and social posts. Then you can see it tells me exactly which assistants that we should be using within our smart AI environment in order to deliver that intended goal. So let's quickly run through some of these now. So you can see now I've moved on to the content strategist as just recommended. And you can see here I've said this message. Well, this is one of our conversation starters that every single one of our assistants have got 4 highly relevant conversation starters, which make it really easy to use an AI assistant. And let me just quickly show you what that would look like if I was starting from scratch. So you would see we're in the content strategist. This one helps me come up with ideas. And we've got these 3 quick buttons here. So I've just pressed that one. And that's then forced the AI to say who they are, what they do, what they need from you, and then what they can give you, which once again is really, really helpful for making AI easy for all of your team to use. So we went to MemCon last week and we did a panel discussion on AI adoption. So I thought, okay, well, let's use this to build on the back of what Chris is going to do with his automation and reminders to think about how we can create a thought leadership article on the importance of AI adoption. So what this assistant will do as I scroll through is it will tell me the structure for the article. So it starts breaking it down within each point what we should be talking about and why, in accordance to the very brief notes I gave them. And as you can see, and this is something we cover in our training when we roll out smart AI to organizations, working with generative AI tools isn't just like a singular directive where you say one thing, hope for the best, and the AI does it. It's very much a dialogue. It's like talking to an extension of your team. And because of the way that we build our AI assistants, where they've got the 5 core documents, so they know all about your business, and the AI assistants are built on top of that data, it can often feel like working with a member of your team. So we've got the plan for the article, but I've then changed my idea and I said, actually, I've got this draft version here. Do you think that we could split this into multiple articles? It then works with me, and I'm not particularly great at marketing, that's why I didn't stay in that marketing role for very long. And it would tell me the pros and cons for doing so. And then it starts breaking down what each article should be. So what I then do, and I'm just going to scroll through this, but I then go through in each article, I get it to put on more detail onto it. So it's bringing in facts from the article that I had uploaded, and it's making a better plan. And it's really important we spend the time to do this because we're going to hand this off to the next AI assistant. And so it's really important all of the rich context that we know and we want to be included is written down in a plan. What we then do is we then get the AI to put it all into one document, which is very similar to the thing that Chris showed with Copilot called Pages. This is called Canvas. And you can see here there's a variety of really good quick edit options there. Okay, so we've now got our 5 article plan. That's about 2 minutes later. If I just scroll to the very bottom just to show something off to you guys, you could also just say to it, well, what other articles could be relevant to our target audience that promotes our products and services? I haven't had to say to this AI at any point in time what our services or products are or who our customers are. But because of those 5 core documents I mentioned earlier, it knows all of that intuitively. So you can see here that when it's suggesting articles, it's already pulling on all of that data in order to give tailored outputs without me having to spend much energy or time trying to talk to it. And this is something very different about smart AI. and it all comes from the core document approach. But just to highlight that point, you can see here I've got one for the local Biz Hub, which is one of our demo accounts. And I've just asked the same question to the different assistant, or sorry, same assistant with different core documents. And you can see here, we're getting very different answers because the local Biz Hub, which is like a local membership organization for businesses in a small town, has got very, very different customers and different services. So you can see here the power of the core documents where it's changing its answers despite it being given the same question based on the core documents. Anyway, let's get back to developing the articles. So we then go to the content creator and we just upload that plan from the content strategist before. And we say, write me up article 1. So you can see there, the article's been written up. If we needed to make any changes, much like Chris's use case of it earlier, we can. And there's also some 5 quick options there. Cool. Many of you have seen these Smart AI demos or have seen this function before, but this was hugely important at the FIA. It allowed us to increase our brand image, put out more content, increase website visitors, and all of the knock-on effects of that, training bookings, memberships, so on and so forth. So you can see I just go and do that for as many articles as there are. I can then hand that off to the social media helper. And just to be fully transparent, let me show you what I've done. I've given it the articles and the plan, and I said, generate me a social media campaign to promote these articles. And so what it then does is writes up formally what we need to do and why, and it will then start writing the posts up for you, and it will give you some hashtags from one of your core documents called the keywords or brand book, where we document this information for organizations. Okay, so that's pretty standard AI now. Most membership organizations could be using this quite easily. And we think they definitely should because we've seen firsthand the benefits it can bring. But this is a new functional feature that's come out just recently. And if I just zoom out before diving into it, there's specialist AI tools like the Otter one that's recording our meeting, and there's excellent at just that. And then there's more general tools like ChatGPT, of which we build on top of. And they're general because they can do data analytics, coding, content creation. But more and more, they're adding on different capabilities to it. One of the things that they've just added on is improved image generation. So this is going to look a bit messy, but bear with me. We're still in the Smart AI workspace using our core documents, and we've just gone to a project that we've created. And I just said, hello, generate me 3 image ideas for this story. And I was lazy and just pasted the whole story in. What the AI did is it then gave us 3 concepts for us to pick from. And I then just said, please enrich concept 3. And it then starts writing out a really, really in-depth plan. And if any of you go and do image generation after this, get it to write a really, really in-depth plan as if it was trying to describe it to someone who was poor of sight. And it's really helpful for it getting all of that relevant data in there that the AI needs to build on from it. Also, you can see here, it's bringing in our color. The colors are noted in the brand book, and it's bringing in the font as well. Once again, showing the importance of those core documents. So anyway, what you can do is then generate images like this, which are super unique, better than the stock images that everyone's seen before, and are highly tailored to the news story. And it takes about 30 seconds to generate. And let me just show you some other use cases of it. So I've gone through the process again with the next story. But you can see here on the right-hand side, it's good, but it's not perfect yet. There are some errors in the text. But that's not really a bother, because you're able to use the brush function here. And as I've done below, you can give it some comments. Ensure that these words are spelled correctly. And you can see there, it's starting to get closer to it. And you continue that until it's there. And you can also just see a few other examples that we created here. Okay, but images are one thing, and we all know how important visual prompts are to getting higher engagement and impression levels on social media. Text is no longer good enough. We've got an AI that can help you create video AI storyboards, and this allows you to use Sora, which is the video generation capability of ChatGPT. And this is why it's general tool, because it's got so many different functions that we as membership organizations in an industry can pull on as your one go-to custom AI workspace. So just to step back a bit, it gave me a prompt here based upon the inputs I gave it, which was the story. It said, why don't you try this? And here's one version of it. If you didn't like that one, you could try a different style, all with the press of a button, or there's a more realistic style. So yeah, that's what I had to show you today about Smart AI and how general tools like Smart AI, powered by your core documents, can massively help you personalize and generate relevant content rapidly, alongside some of the other visual assets that you would need, all in one workspace.
Great, Adam. Thanks. Thanks so much for that. That is, I love the video thing in particular. I've never seen that before. Sora, that you can type in a description and it'll create your own video. So talk about associations punching above their weight on an affordable budget. That's stuff that used to cost tens of thousands of pounds to do, and a studio environment and all of those kind of things. That's amazing. So great. We've had some really good Q&A questions drop in. We've had one about affordable tools, which Steve Sidey has already answered in the chat. But let me just go through some of the general Q&A questions. So Steve, let me fire this one towards you if you don't mind. We really want to personalize our comms, but our data is in a mess. What are the steps towards doing this? Specifically, can Copilot work with data that's in different places at the same time?
Well, I think there's a whole range of different things here. If you want to send stuff to people, then the one piece of data you've got to have correct is your email address, and you'll be able to extract those from various places. But you can also use some AI tools to help you start put more data or more value around that data. So you could use it to drive personalization, say deriving job seniority from their job title and job area of focus from their job title and stuff like that. So we use that quite a lot. But the massive advantage, a bit like Alan showed, that the tools that we've built in ChatGPT is around the content of it. So they're not totally reliant on data, but you're going to have some decent data in your various data sources, and you can use AI to help improve that as you go along.
Fantastic, thank you. And then I've got a kind of foundational question for Adam, if you don't mind. Is Microsoft's Copilot a kind of built-in ChatGPT? And if it is, what difference does being built in mean, please?
It's a good question, and one that we had a lot at the MemCom conference. So when it's built in, it's connected, and Chris will be able to give you more details on this, to your Dataverse and your SharePoint, which, if that's in a good place and you've got the right data in there, is a real blessing. If not, it then can be quite confusing and disorientating, because it's pulling on data that might not be as relevant or needed. And that's why Smart AI is a suitable alternative, whereby the 5 core documents are there to provide like that level playing field, so that the AI is only getting the relevant information. But yeah, they're doing some exciting things with it, and there's a big event coming at the end of this month that I'm sure we'll be telling you more about when we've heard about it.
Fantastic, thank you. I'm going to try and sneak in 2 really quick questions. What will be really good, by the way, is because the next questions are about AI. Do I need to change my membership? Let me ask this one of Jeremy, if I may. Do I need to change my membership system to implement automation and AI?
It relates probably to the question you asked Steve a little bit, Alan. It depends on the system that you have in place at the moment, and to what extent the quality of the data that you have in that system can support you. I would say you don't have to change system, but it would make adoption of AI a lot easier to have a platform with native AI capabilities built into it. So, one of the advantages of Dynamics 365 as a platform is that you're able to use Power Automate, which is an automation tool that has AI prompt generation built into it, and Microsoft Copilot Studio, which is a assistant builder using data in your CRM platform without having to do any complex integration. So if you've got those capabilities in your system, then no, but you probably do need to think about how you want to use them, and as you and I described, how you apply AI to the sort of fundamentals of your communications activity, and indeed any other business processes that you are wanting to run with AI.
Thank you so much. Great. And then Steve, the last question is a segue onto you just wrapping up, if you don't mind. So the question is, how achievable is AI for most membership bodies? And I think that'll tie into our slide that we've got on screen now as well.
Well, our practical findings are that it's very achievable. We started working with 2 of our customers in 2023. The Fire Industry Association is one of them. They've achieved over £1,000% ROI and saved about 25% of their staff time in that period. So that's a massive benefit for actually a very low cost. And the other was a care providing association who automated a lot of their CPD application and certificate processing, and that deals with something like 3,500 of their 4,000 a month now, and processes them through to awards. So we've got downloadable resources there. They all teach you about where the benefits are and how to go about practically planning and implementing AI. The tools that Adam showed everyone are those that we've used in our other customers. So they've been evolving over 2.5 years, and they'll save you 2.5 years of pain, because we've been through that pain. And they're not expensive. They're on a subscription model, and you pay for what you want. So by all means, please download those resources. But if you want a massive head start, then contact us and we'll talk to you about how we can get you going.
Great, thank you. Okay, and I think it's just time to wrap up.
So yeah, last couple of slides. We've got a very active AI working group. If any of you are interested in being part of that, and really it's about those that are on the journey and what they're finding works, what finding doesn't work, then please email that address, and we'll try to include you in those regular sessions. And the final slide is, this is one of a series of events. We have 3 more already slated for this year, and we'll probably add a couple of others as well. But please just register up for those. You can get to it via the QR code, and we'd love to see you at the next event. So I hope this has been useful. Thanks very much.
Great. Thanks, everybody. And look forward to seeing everybody on the next webinar. Thanks so much.
Thanks, everyone.
Thanks. Bye.
Bye-bye.